key role in loosening the diplomatic Gordian knot by seeking assurances from Sweden, blah, 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 blah. Now the key phrase in the key sentence, seeking assurances from Sweden. Australia can seek assurances from Sweden, right? That's the first recommendation. We're kind of into a conclusion here. It's clearly a recommendation, isn't it? This is what the writer thinks the Australian government could and should do. But look for the key phrase. It's seek assurances from Sweden. Get the Australian government to do that. Next paragraph. In addition, Australian government officials should retract. Tract is to pull. I've mentioned that before. Retract, to take back the false claims of illegality. So they should stop saying WikiLeaks is illegal, and they should retract that. Say, oh, sorry, what I said is false. It's not true. Retract. Okay, that's in the topic sentence. Key phrase, retract the false claims of illegality. Third, finally, what? As it can jeopardize. Jeopardize means threaten. Threaten, put at risk. Jeopardize. Useful word. Jeopardize. In the one about illegality in WikiLeaks, publishing activities, as it can jeopardize the potential for any fair trial. So her argument there, the Australian government saying it's illegal, it's illegal, it's illegal, can put at risk the fairness of any trial. Yeah? Jeopardise, threaten, or put at risk. A useful word for any kind of writing. Finally, yeah, we get nice, fairly clear signals here. In addition, finally, recently introduced series of legislation or amendments should be reconsidered. So recent changes to law should be reconsidered, thought of again, and maybe removed. And there's a whole development there of all the different acts to do with ASIO and the Extradition and Mutual Assistance in Criminal Matters Legislation Amendment Act, all these hugely long names of laws. She mentions them and says why each one of those should be reconsidered. Okay, so where would you say the conclusion is? Are we okay about the structure of that? That's the structure.
No. Where is the conclusion? Conclusion is not there.
Well, remember, conclusions have two functions, two possible functions. Recommendations, implications. Right, where do the recommendations start?
Recommendations here, yes, but...
Yeah. That, overall, that whole thing is conclusion.
I would add a couple of sentences to
So
summarize all meanings and,
yeah.
and finalize the essay.
That last broadening out bit
Yeah.
is sort of not there. Yeah, I would add, I agree, Papa. I'd add something to just sort of wrap the whole thing
Yeah.
in silver paper, you know, right at the end to get a nice package. But I don't think it's too problematic, you know. I do think, you know, that last little bit, that broadening, she finishes on, well, she does broaden out a little bit, but to restrict the existing legal and political rights of any Australians, including Assange as well as other politicians. There's a bit of broadening happening there, but it's little, isn't it? I would, as you say, develop that a bit more. But you've got three clear recommendations that are part of the concluding process. Yeah, that's right. Starting from, as Rothwell points out.
Another word you use. If we paraphrase the introduction,
is it about the conclusion?
more information. Is that right?
I don't know what was
No.
Your attention, please. We're testing the fire
The
evacuation.
conclusion is not really a repeat of the introduction.
Somebody...
Hang on, Mohammed. It's not a repeat of the introduction. It's got another purpose. It's a wrapping up, but with you're heading towards, and the purpose of wrapping up and the way you wrap up should head towards recommendations or implications. Those are the two key ideas, functions of a conclusion. So if you think of the introduction, what is the focus of the introduction? Where is the destination of the introduction? The destination of the introduction is to the thesis statement, isn't it? Where just, I'm going to say this, I'm going to argue these 4 points.
Yes.
So the whole shape and nature and flavour of that
Focus
is
on
because
that.
of that, yeah. Now, conclusion is a wrap-up of what you have said, but focusing on and heading towards recommendations or a statement of implications. Yeah.
Thank you.
So if you keep those two things in mind, I think you'll write them differently. Something like, often it's a common question, like, how do I distinguish between the two? Yeah. Okay, then there's referencing. We won't comment on that yet because next week we'll start to look. Next week we're going to, main focus will be the article grammar. We're going to do a lot of critical thinking stuff next week because if you're writing an argument, you want to make sure, okay, language is, got to be as good as possible. So you can have a perfect piece of English, but a fail essay because the logic is problematic, or the way you've applied rules of evidence is problematic. Yeah, so we've got to explore this fairly intensely next week while you're writing, and so you're thinking about the rules of argument and so on. Make sure you are not, that you're avoiding some of those common problems. And we'll be looking at referencing too. That'll be a main sort of focus next week. But in the meantime, have a grand weekend. The officially starts now.
Finally.
See you then. Monday.
Sorry, hours.
Hey, for some, not now. For the lucky ones.